Good morning. How are you, Jessica?
I'm good, Rick. How are you?
Good. Good to have you with us. So this is part of our interview series with members, Vistage Grounded Toward Growth. And I'd love to kick off with having you tell a bit about yourself, but also the Conafay Group and the work that you do, the work that you do there.
Sure. Thanks. Thanks for having me. So I'm the CEO of the Conafay Group, and we are a federal relations firm. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C., and we focus on biomedicine and the life sciences. So we help clients to do policy work and influence policy change in those spaces, and then also help them be more successful at winning federal funding for their R&D and procurement efforts.
Okay.
And I guess a little bit about me. I've been the CEO of the Conafay Group for about 2 years, and it's my first time being a CEO. And I've worked in this industry for a long time, and I came from within the Conafay Group as the CEO. But being the leader of the organization is a new thing for me, relatively.
And I know you've got a fun and interesting background. Tell them a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I'm very unusual looking on paper, maybe is one way to put it. So my educational background is actually that I used to be an archaeologist. I was studied archaeology, spent some time in the field, thought I was going to be an academic, and then kind of made a big pivot partway through my PhD program and decided that it wasn't the right place for me, that I didn't quite have the passion for it that I would need to live the life of an academic, and ended up, kind of looking for another job and to, as a placeholder, kind of to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and ended up landing on something that really stuck. So I worked for the Department of Defense as a civilian for about a decade.
Wow.
Kind of overseeing and managing grant programs, and learning also how to work with Congress and kind of be on the receiving end of inquiries from Congress on what we were funding and things like that. And that was sort of the path to getting to federal relations.
Interesting. Wow. Very good. I've always enjoyed you telling some of those stories. That's fun. Every member has a different reason for looking into Vistage or answering that email or phone call that I may have sent. What was it that interested you in learning more about Vistage?
Well, actually, it was sort of an amazing convergence of timing, because the founder of the Conafay Group had asked me to be his successor. And he continues to be involved in the company, but at that time, he had asked me to take on that role. And I think that at the time that you reached out, Rick, I had actually just become, like within a month or something, had become the CEO. And my husband had actually mentioned it to me at one point. And then I was so busy, I didn't think about it again for a while. But then also the founder and and his wife, who is also involved in the business, they said, why don't you go find an executive coach or something like that? And then you reached out, and it just was great, because it was, I was new, the first time being a CEO. I really, really needed something, to help me figure out my job, honestly. There's some things that I already knew from having been at the firm for a number of years, but an awful lot I didn't know.
Great. So as you look back over these couple years, what has been the most valuable experience for you in your Vistage journey?
Well, it's hard, because there are a lot of valuable experiences. I mean, I think at a high level, I would say just the ability to access people and get to know people who have gone through some kind of a leadership transition, particularly when they're not the owner of the company, but then also when they are the owner, kind of to get the perspective of the owner in succession planning. Since I'm, in this case, the successor, I really didn't know. I was very naive in many ways when I first took the job about those kinds of issues, and to have those perspectives has been just invaluable for me, and I think has really accelerated my understanding of what it takes to to orchestrate a leadership transition successfully. So that's probably the number one thing for me.
Awesome. Great. No, you're not alone. You're not alone. Um, as you know, one of the core aspects of our monthly meeting is that members present an issue or opportunity to the other members. So we call it issue processing. It's a simple, how do I fill in the blank? And we dig in and we try to stay out of solutions initially. We'll get around to solutions, but we really try to understand the issue or opportunity in terms of its depth and breadth. What have you seen, and how has issue processing worked for you?
Well, it's first of all, I'll say it's great both when I'm doing the issue processing, like it's my issue, but also when it's other people's issues. So when it's my issue, it's again really those perspectives. It's also kind of forcing me to drill down on here's what I think the problem is, but maybe it's actually a slightly different angle on that same issue that is the part that I really need to figure out. And even just figuring out the right question actually is
Yeah,
important.
right.
Value, and then of course, hearing the kinds of questions and actually I think every time I've done an issue processing, the feedback has been really helpful, but then I feel like it's also helped me to, like, as we're looking through what, identifying what the question is, sometimes it's all of the questions that
Yes.
I need to sort of keep and bookmark and understand. And so the kind of figuring out those steps to solving something has been great.
Right.
And then, I think when other people are doing their issue processing, it's practice at asking good questions, which I think is an important job the CEO always has.
Sure. Yeah. And so often other people's issues, half the room also has. And so it's like people seem to
Yeah,
be relating to, oh yeah, I
yeah,
get that. I'm wrestling the same thing. It's
absolutely.
and I think of how often, like 98% of the time, the how do I changes. And
Yes.
and so people ask, what's the ROI for being a part of Vistage, being a part of a peer advisory group? Just the fact that a core, biggest thing on your plate item gets redirected in a sometimes dramatically different direction. You just saved 9 months, 12 months of work. Thing
Yeah.
you would have been going down a path that was, very different than what you end up going down. So that
Yeah.
alone seems to provide a lot of value to folks. So that's great. Another big question that comes up, and I know I get this often with prospective members, is, it's an all-day meeting, 90 minutes a month with Rick. How do you manage the time? How do you commit to the time necessary? So how do you do that? What do you say to
Yeah.
yourself to make this a priority?
Well, I don't know if this is usual or unusual, but for me, it actually wasn't difficult, and it was because I think I knew how much I had to learn, and I just decided, okay, I'm going to plan ahead. Every month, and we know the dates far in advance, so that makes it
Yeah,
easier.
yeah,
Just put it on the calendar and make sure that everyone knows they can't schedule anything during that time unless it's an emergency or incredibly time sensitive. And every now and then, okay, you step out and do a call for a few minutes or something and then come back. But I really think that the framing in my mind, thinking of that one day meeting as a strategy meeting for my company
mhm,
makes it very easy to swallow that one day.
yeah,
It's time that I would probably really like to have the rest of the time,
right,
but
right,
don't.
right.
You know,
Yeah. Good. Well, no, everyone has to, how do you make it sacred? So,
yeah.
and it's not easy when you're running a business. So I appreciate that. Um, in addition to our monthly all-day meeting, you and I meet each month for 90
Mhm.
minutes. What value have you gotten out of the one-to-ones, and how would you align what comes out of our one-to-one conversations with what insight and what you bring to the group or get out of the group.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about how valuable the one-to-ones are. I think that the ability to kind of focus for that 90 minutes on me and kind of what's going on, to get your perspective, and you have a ton of experience working with other CEOs like me, and you have collected a lot of resources, and sometimes can share
Yeah,
templates or you name it, articles, things that in addition to your own experience can be super helpful. So that focused time on whatever my issue is that day, or just having, I'm in the middle of a leadership transition, as you know, and sort of just being able to update you on that and get your feedback on what's going on in that general sense is really, really good. And I think it in terms of how that connects to the monthly meeting, I think it just kind of all flows together. I think that it's it makes me, I think it puts me in a better position to contribute to the monthly meeting, but
yeah,
also the timing of them is such that some issues are big and it takes many, many meetings to go through them, and you can take what you learn from one and bring it to the other and kind of further develop it. And I think that's a really good opportunity.
great. No, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, uh, One of the things that we're very purposeful about, as you know, is to get to know each other
Yeah.
and have some fun. And the reason that's important is that as we know who each other, what we're really all about, and how we tick, what makes us who we are, what makes us the kind of leader we are better able to help each other when we are doing issue processing, or someone's got an issue. If I know that you think a certain way and your behavior, your tendency is. So how would you describe the relationship and more the personal fun side of Vistage experience?
It's a really fun group of people, which is not something I expected. I guess when I first joined, I didn't think very much about that part, but I feel like I've made friends, people that
Yeah,
I occasionally even spend time with outside of the meetings.
yeah,
And also just if there's something going on and I know, oh, so and so is going through this problem, and I bet that he would have really good perspective on whatever it is that's going on with me. We'll go have lunch and talk about it, and it's really great to do that. But then we also, we always have happy hour, and I so it's been really great, and I think it's been fun, and it's supported the work that we're doing too, to have those kinds of personal relationships with people.
absolutely.
Um, so I enjoy that part of it a lot and would miss it
Yeah,
greatly if I didn't
yeah,
have it.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I last night I met with a former member, and for an hour and a half, and we had a wonderful time. Had a glass of wine and caught up. So it's really, you make friends. You really do. Um, as you step back and you look at this whole thing, this whole experience, um, what would you say are what are one or two things that have had the biggest impact on you as a leader, or personally, professionally? What are the one or two biggest things that have come out of this experience for you?
Well, I think that it's kind of a broad one, but it's significant, and that is, like I mentioned, I came into Vistage as a brand new CEO, so I kind of thought of it as almost like CEO school.
Mhm.
I really, we're a small business. Nobody, I think, in my business, including the founder, were really trained to run a business. So I think that people, the feedback I've gotten from people is that the impression I gave as a leader at the beginning, and I don't know, let's say a year in, was completely different. Like the confidence that I projected, the kind of thoughts that I was able to contribute in terms of strategy, I feel like that it made me make the leap from kind of a manager to a leader, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And it's still doing that, but I think that was what I needed, and so that's what it gave me. Yeah.
Yeah, you've summarized it well. I mean, we're really all about the journey from 3 million to 30 million to 300 million.
Yeah.
And what does that mean in terms of top line revenue growth? What's that mean in terms of organization and the people around you? It's huge, it's transformational. And what's that mean for you as a person? And as the organization, as the revenues grow and the organization grows, the CEO needs to grow. So it's this journey that we're all on that's really quite fun. So,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Well, I was just going to add that, for anybody who's watching this, I think it's important to know too that there's people who are brand new to CEO ship like me, but there's also people who have been doing it for a really long time. And I think those people, that sort of mix of people and everything in between has really added to that experience as well.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, so I want to thank you and just give you one last opportunity. So if you had any advice to someone that may be watching this who's considering Vistage, what advice would you have in their consideration?
I would say first of all, take it seriously, and don't get hung up on the one day, because if the one day a month is a problem for you, then I think you need to think about how you're spending your time.
Yeah.
Because one of the kind of maxims I've learned in Vistage is the importance of working on the business versus in the business.
Yes.
So I think, you have to ask yourself, am I working on the business, or am I kind of too deep in the business, if the one day is really a thing for, that's going to stop me from participating in this activity. So yeah, I think that would be the main thing. And just to, um, take the opportunity to come in and sit in, visit a meeting and see what it's like, and give it that chance, because it's really been valuable for me.
Fabulous. Great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.